Covering you from your LB1 to your taxi squad, this is IDP Nation.
Manning back, pumps, he fires to the far side. It's intercepted and running into a touchdown.
Your home for the best in IDP and draft coverage.
Daniel has time in the pocket, steps up, and he's going to be hit from the side, and he's going down. That's a sack.
Here are the hosts of IDP Nation, Hollywood and Kyle B.
Welcome back to IDP Nation. Don't know who that Kyle fella is.
I guess
had to be a producer's there.
Yeah. Go Pack, go! Did I do it right?
There you go. But Sean's with me. We're back. We've been sick, and Sean's had internet issues, and hopefully we've got all that cleared out. So we're ready to go for the 2025 season. How you been, man? I feel like it's been a couple of weeks since we've chatted.
Yeah, we've only been trying to do this for a month and a half.
Yeah, it's always been something. And then I got sick for like 2 weeks, and I couldn't do nothing. So that was the drizzling shits, is what that was. So,
yeah. We were talking about how bad that flu's been. Let's hope it's better from here on out.
Yeah, 2 strains of flu going around. COVID still going around. Strep throat going around. Kids are back at school passing boogers around. So yeah.
ED for you older folk.
Yeah, that sucks to be old. Not me, but for you guys.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, we've got a lot to catch up on. There's no way that we're going to be able to cover it all. So before we do that, though, yeah, I know, right? Well, I drink fast, so maybe I can read fast.
Don't know if there's a correlation there or not.
Can you imagine me reading fast like this and then somebody playing it on 1.5 speed while I'm reading fast like this?
I bet that's fun. We'll check it out later for science.
That would be awesome. Yeah, right. But we have a new Super Bowl champion. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22 in the Super Bowl. And honestly, that game wasn't that close. They beat the freaking dog snot out of them.
I actually love this, not because I was highly rooting against the Chiefs, but just because of the defensive display by Vic Fangio and the Eagles themselves. I like watching a good defensive team take over and really shut down an offense, which, looking at Kansas City throughout the season, they did not look great throughout most of the year. They really haven't. They looked off all year. I'm really surprised they made it to the Super Bowl. And
but they kept finding a way to win during the season. I was like, man, they should have lost this game. Nope, they would win every time. And I'm like, sooner or later, their luck has to run out, and then you get to the playoffs, and I'm like, well, damn, I don't know if it's going to or not.
Yeah, right. They looked a little better in the playoffs. Yeah, I think they got a few pieces back, a little healthier. But, man, the Eagles, they were ready for them.
Yeah, that defense was ready for them. I mean, that was
I would like to take this time to thank Zach Bond for helping me win $100 with that interception of his. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not bad for a $5 bet.
Oh, no. Anytime you can throw some pocket change at something and win big like that, hey, I'll take that any day of the week, man. Any day of the week. That was like I said, that game was pretty much a blowout for the most part because they didn't get 2 touchdowns till late. So, to try to make it close, and they still lost by 18. So, that defense was on fire. The edge rushers
was the best thing they had for the Chiefs. Even their defense, I thought would be a little stingier than they were. They were pretty lackluster.
Yeah, they were. But Philadelphia's got a lot of weapons too. You've got Barkley in the mix now. You've got AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. You've got Dallas Goddard, Jalen Hurts. I mean, they've got a pretty nice mix on offense where they can kind of attack you in different ways.
And they're actually, I think they're all under contract for a while too. I don't think the Eagles stand to lose too many pieces this offseason.
I don't believe so. I think you're right. I think they're, for the most part, they're all kind of under contract. Speaking of champions,
Oh,
we gotta congratulate our listener league champions, and well, looky there, you happen to be one of those said champions.
right.
Yeah. So you
Forgot
won
about
the
that.
listener league. Yeah, you won listener league 1, 18-3 on the year.
Who'd I beat?
Congratulations.
Who'd I beat? Is it written
I don't
down?
know. Probably some.
Do we have that information?
Probably some loser.
Yeah, well, definitely
Probably
now.
some loser.
Yeah.
I think you beat me in that league, right?
I did.
Yeah, smart ass. I knew that's where you were going.
Joseph and Miles Garrett sealed it for me
back
when
lit me up
the season was still going on. Yeah. It was a good season for me.
Yeah,
I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, you had honestly, I didn't think that I even had business being in the playoffs in that this year for that league. And I just kept kind of hanging around, and then I was like, well, let's see if I can't make a run at this. But yeah, you were a buzzsaw all year, so they wouldn't have beaten you. So
I felt better
yeah,
after I got past our buddy Tripp. Yeah, I felt a lot better. He's
yeah,
the
that
one
was a tough one. Yeah, actually, the semifinals was the best games. You and Tripp and me, and I forget who it was, but that was it Kyle maybe? I can't remember, but those were the good games. And I was like, well, I ain't no way I'm beating John.
I don't sing till it's over. I've lost too many championships there at the very end. You go in cocky and yeah.
Oh, it'll bite you every time. You got my luck. That'll get you every time.
I have learned my lesson more than once.
Yep. So you won our Listener League 1. Listener League 2 was won by James Connor. I think his name's Connor 10 or whatever it is on Twitter and on Discord. So he was 16-4-1. And then our Davey IDP Grind Listener League, which is a Campus to Canton League, our good old buddy Kyle Lena won that, Kyle Belfield. So he went 15-2 on the NFL side. So he won that. And then Justice won the college side. But yeah, you won, Kyle won. 2 of my 3 co-hosts won.
Yeah.
Dan was in both listener leagues, and he didn't make it. So he's a loser, and I'm a loser. So, we got that going for us.
You're not losers. Y'all just win at the wrong time. And wasn't during the championship.
Feel good.
Trying to make it feel a little better here.
Yeah. Whatever, pal. Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yeah. Those are fun leagues. I do enjoy them.
Yeah. And speaking of that, where did that go? I have it right here. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Our good friends at Trophy Smack, as always. See if I can get it in the thing here. At Trophy Smack.
Ooh, they were kind enough.
Yep, they were kind enough once again, like they do every year, to send us championship rings for each of our winners. And I'm telling you right now, I didn't know they had these till I put in the request. And I hope they keep these every year, because these rings right here, see if I can.
Oh, nice.
They're black with
that really
the gold.
Pops. That really
yes.
pops. I like that.
got the champ on the side, got the fantasy on the other side. But yeah, you could see the FFL can go backwards because of the screen. So they were kind enough to donate all of us champions. So 4 champions, actually 5. I've got another league. So they were kind enough to donate 5 rings to us. They're all the same, the black and gold. And these things are amazing. Same great quality that we've had in the past. For those of you that's won rings from us. But yeah, great shout out to Trophy Smack. And honestly, they are the best in the business when it comes to championship hardware. They got stuff for losers. They got stuff, and you don't have to play fancy sports. They got stuff for golf outings and you name it. They can make a trophy for it. Plaques, rings, belts. The belts are awesome too. Yeah, they're kind enough to do that. So we thank them. I'll be getting in touch with you guys to get your address so I can ship those to you. But yeah, man, I can't wait for you to see it because seeing it on the screen doesn't do it justice. Wait till you get this thing and see it in person. And I'm like, wow, that gold lettering it pops off that black because it's like it looks like a piece of coal. You know how a piece of coal will kind of glimmer, that little shine to it?
Yeah.
That's how these rings are. It's got that little glimmer shine to it, and then you got this gold on it, man. It just pops. It's something else. But yeah, you will.
I'll make sure to wear it
coming your way.
I'll make sure to wear it by the time we record again. I'll have her on.
Shoot, yeah, man. Yeah, they're nice and heavy. They feel good. I mean, they're just like the other rings, but I really, really like these. I think going forward, that's what I'm going to ask for. So I hope they keep doing the black because not that the other rings are bad, the silver, the bling bling rings, and all that. But
yeah,
these rings are they're pretty freaking sweet, dude.
Right.
Yeah. So see there, you got you something to show off and brag around and all the good stuff, man.
I'll take my wedding ring off when the old lady ain't looking and put my fantasy football championship ring on.
Hell yeah.
Married to the game, baby.
That's right. That's right. So news and notes, like I said, there is a ton of news and notes. We won't get to them all. So I hit on some of the bigger ones. The Los Angeles Rams rookie defensive end Jared Verse won Defensive Rookie of the Year. And Philadelphia's cornerback Quinyon Mitchell finishes second in Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I'll get to this. I'll come back to this because I want to talk about Defensive Rookie of the Year. But yeah, Verse was. I think a lot of people voted for him to win Rookie of the Year. Much deserved. He had a huge season for them, so he's everything we thought he would be, right?
Yeah, he was one of the few I put a future bet on to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think it was him and Dallas Turner were the two I felt the best about.
Yeah.
And, it usually comes down to sacks or interceptions. Verse was a beast. It doesn't completely show up in the stats. This dude was, he was getting double teamed and chipped and everything. But he, between him and Fisk, fellow rookie there, probably had a fair shot at winning. And then you got the young Kobe Turner right next to him. I mean, this is going to be a fun defensive line for the next several years. But he definitely deserved
it. They've got Byron Young.
Yes. Yep, Byron Young still back there.
Yeah, so they're loaded on defense, like you said, with nice young talent. And if they can just get the linebackers to stay with them, because they've got some nice young safeties too. So,
right, yeah, they got to get that linebacker figured out. That still blows my mind. Last year, they seen Ernest Jones and said, "Now we can do better," and then it was not better. Yeah, not better at all.
They didn't.
Yeah. That was a big
Yeah, that
fumble.
was. And I don't have Jones on here, but what a fall, man! He went from a dynasty stud.
Yeah.
LA trades him to Tennessee for basically nothing.
Yep.
And then Tennessee turns around and trades him to Seattle for even less. And I'm like, wait a minute, what happened here that he just basically fell from grace, more or less? I mean,
Yeah, I have no
because
idea.
when I was watching him, it didn't look like he was playing bad,
No,
right?
no, he
So,
looked good.
yeah, I don't quite get that. So, but we'll see. Um, Denver Broncos corner Patrick Surtain II wins Defensive Player of the Year. He's the first corner to do it since the guy from New England.
Gil,
His name's
Gilmore, Stephon Gilmore.
yes, Stephon Gilmore. So yeah, but what a season Surtain had. Trey Hendrickson was second. Miles Garrett was third. But Surtain for a corner, man, ooh, he was on fire this year.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the tops in the league, if not the top guy right now. I was still a little surprised because there were guys that had quite a few more interceptions, and then the sacks. Sacks as a whole felt like they were down, especially from the top guys. I really thought Hendrickson was going to take it, but I don't hate Surtain.
I did too. Yeah, I kind of did too. Because it's rare that you see a corner really win these awards. I mean, I know Stephon Gilmore had that huge season, but you've really got to have a pretty special season to win this award.
I think it was more from a
course
lockdown perspective because if you look at stats by themselves, it's not like he had a bad year. It's just not overly, MVP or defensive player of the year like numbers. It's not like he had 8, 10 interceptions or 100 tackles. I don't even know if he got 50 tackles. He only had like
he
4
did not.
interceptions.
So he had 45 tackles, which was a career low.
Right.
That's a career low in the NFL. Yes, 45 tackles, 34 were solos, 1 TFL, 4 interceptions, which tied his career best.
Hmm.
1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. But he did lead the NFL with 132 return yards on interceptions, and he had one of them he returned 100 yards for a touchdown. So I think that helped. The big long touchdown that he returned, I can't remember who that was against. I can tell you that was against the Raiders in October. So yeah, he had 2 interceptions that game and returned one of them for 100 yards for a touchdown. So that helped. But yeah, I think that you're right. While his numbers don't show it, it was his ability to just basically shut down half the field against teams.
Yeah.
He was always matched up for the most part against their best receiver, and he didn't get tested very much.
Yeah, rare voting strategy here for everyone. Like I said, it was a bit of a surprise. Hendrickson, I think, led the league with sacks. I thought that was going to be enough for him to take it home. You could have made a case for somebody like Leonard Williams, who had the sacks. I think tackles, he did pretty good from his stance. That interception for a touchdown. I mean, he there for like a 3-4 week window. He was the lead guy, for Defensive Player of the Year, and then it didn't completely fizzle out, but it's hard to sustain all that.
Yeah, so I mean, Hendrickson led the league with 17 and a half sacks. You had Miles Garrett, who led the league with 22 TFLs. You had Zaire Franklin, who led the league with 173 tackles. Kirby Joseph, 9 interceptions.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of. I just didn't think Surtain was going to win it. Not that he wouldn't deserve it,
Sure.
I just didn't think that he was going to get. So that kind of shocked me a little bit.
Yeah,
For
definitely.
sure.
Now, like I said, it's usually sacks or interceptions for defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year. You got to have, a lot of sacks, interceptions. It's very rare for,
Right.
Like I say, a corner, probably even rare for a linebacker, unless he just has quite a few of everything. But,
Right.
Congrats, Surtain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Huge shout out. This is going to be a wild offseason. It already is. I mean, we've got the combine going on right now, and some of these off-season moves that are going to be made, people hitting free agency, people requesting to be traded.
The rumors, smoke and
Yeah,
mirrors.
it's going to be insane. So Cincinnati linebacker Jermaine Pratt has requested a trade. That's kind of interesting. I mean, I guess if he leaves, I'm moving Logan Wilson up because he's going to be the only linebacker they have pretty much left.
Yeah, it's not a terrible move by Pratt because we got a lot of aging linebackers that could retire, could find themselves losing some playing time. There's like 5 or 6 I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. So there's positionings opening up on some better teams than what he thinks Cincinnati can be. Is how I'm reading this.
Yeah. I've heard some people say Indianapolis because his old coach went there too. But I don't know with Franklin, and I know EJ Speed's a free agent, but with Franklin there, with Nick Cross there, I just don't know if they would. Plus, they have other issues, right? They have other things they need to fill as linebackers. I don't know if that's really an option. I wouldn't think so.
I'm thinking more of Tampa Bay. They could
because
Levante David's getting old if he decides to stay or whatever. And then as far as
I'll go ahead and skip to that because he's in my notes here. Tampa Bay's being pretty patient with him.
Yeah.
Because they said they're going to give him all the time he needs to decide on if he wants to continue playing. And with that, apparently other teams have been checking in to see if he's available for trade. So, if he wants to move on or retire, that would be a good spot for him, I think.
Well, even if David stays another year, they didn't have much outside of him at linebacker, and they definitely need help. KJ Britt did not pan out. JJ Russell didn't do a whole lot.
Sebastian Dennis didn't a whole lot. Yeah,
he got hurt. There's definitely room on that team for a good, solid linebacker, if nothing else, to be their LB2.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure somebody, if he hits free agency, somebody's gonna, or not free agency, but if he's really intending on being traded, I would think somebody they'd be willing to give up whatever it is that Cincinnati
I would think
want.
he's commanding a huge price. I don't even know what it would be at 4th, 5th, probably later than that, 6th. Wouldn't be a lot that you could get a very solid linebacker. I mean, you go back to the Rams. We were talking about them a minute ago. That wouldn't be a bad drop for either one of them.
Exactly. Dallas would be a good place.
Yep.
They could use a linebacker. Speaking of Dallas, they've had, and this has been a little while back, but they had internal discussions about trading Michael Parsons. As we all know, he's got a contract coming up.
Yeah.
And then Parsons says their plan is there is a plan in place for him to get a new deal. He had voiced earlier that he was unhappy with how the team was constructed, right? And I think you see a lot of that at the end of the season when teams are predicted to be good and should be better, and then they just kind of suck like the Cowboys have, or get put out early. So I
Year
can
after
see why
year.
he gets disgruntled.
Yeah, he was banged up for a while too, or
Yeah,
maybe milked an injury some. I really don't know, but I feel like he's the type of guy that does get on the field uh, when he is healthy. But yeah, off year for him. Some devastating injuries there, offense and defense. Just it seems like it's the same story for Dallas every year.
same
Injuries.
story every
Yeah, yeah. They could have had Derrick Henry. They were like, nah, Rico Daddle's the guy. And then,
year.
yeah,
How'd that work out for him?
yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. It's just we're going to see here with some of these other guys that are wanting outs. I don't think it's they don't hate their team or probably even the coaches. It's just the way that either the owners are running these teams down or just GMs in general seems to be the biggest
Right,
problem here.
and I think because you're going to see a theme here, um, the edge class, or the edge class in the draft, because you got Abdul Carter and James Pierce and Shamar Stewart and all these guys, but the edge group in the NFL, there is a lot of disgruntled edge rushers, and they're wanting to force trades or they're wanting new deals or whatever. And I just think this, as far as the edge group goes, man, this could be one freaking crazy off season. And we go right from Micah Parsons to Myles Garrett, and this thing's been going on for a few months, like ever since the season ended, right away,
Yeah,
because he told the Cleveland Browns that, hey, I need a plan of I need you to come up with a plan of what you're looking to do for the future that doesn't
right.
involve rebuilding. And
Yep.
then, they come back on Hard Knocks, and the general manager, Andrew Berry, says they believe the team is closer than everyone thinks to being a contender, which I'm not buying. And
Nope.
then it wasn't long after that you seen Garrett come back out and he requested a trade. And he said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to facilitate whatever it takes to go to a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, he came out and said that he's not open to an extension with them. So
I
he
thought that
wants out of
was
Cleveland.
I thought that was really key yesterday when he said that. He's not
Yes.
even considering renegotiating anything. He's done, and I think this goes back to ownership and GM. This stuff with Deshaun Watson with all that guaranteed money.
Yep.
They can't get him on the field. He doesn't look great when he's on the field, but yet they're stuck with all this money that they owe him. And I believe what was it, his Achilles he had injured and then re-injured it. So we're now pushing that further down the line. So it already looks like Cleveland's, already 5 games behind in their division, and we haven't even hit free agency yet. I don't blame him. He's getting older. He's had enough.
Yeah, and a lot of people think it's about the money, but
No.
if you listen to him, I don't think it's about the money. He wants
No.
to win. He wants to go to a Super Bowl contender. He doesn't want an extension.
Right.
He wants to win. So I know the Browns are saying the right things, that we're not trading him. We've got a plan in place. But I have to imagine that if he were to become truly available on the market as far as a trade,
Somebody's paying.
yeah. And recently, just before I got on, I didn't add it on here, but I heard that the Lions are interested, which would be insane to have him with Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, that has big potential there. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Actually, that would probably.
I wouldn't either, and I have to
definitely help
think that a player. Exactly, you'd have to think a player of Garrett's elite ability, because he's an elite guy. The return in a trade would have to be outstanding, and Cleveland needs that. I mean, I know they want to keep Myles Garrett, but you need
going to be
what
worth
he would
more.
give you.
With him getting older, this is probably you're entering the last probably year or two where they could really hit the jackpot on a trade as far as draft picks. Yeah, so the time's about right for both of them.
Yeah, because he'll be playing he'll be 29. He don't turn 30 until December, so he'll be playing this season as 29.
Yeah, and that's to say as far as his value from being a big multi-pick type of player, as far as him playing, he's still got several years on him. He's a bit of a athletic freak, so I could see him playing quite a while actually. Yeah, it'd be a perfect time to trade him. This is what you'd want to do in Dynasty as well.
Oh, great point. Yes, exactly. You always want to capitalize your return when they're at their peak, right? I mean, that's what you want to do. So
I do feel like we're getting towards the end of his peak. Like, I don't see a big drop off coming, but I don't see him going any higher. I don't see him,
I would agree with that. I don't think, like you said, I don't see a big drop off coming.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we've seen his ultimate peak. Now, again, he goes to somewhere like Detroit with Hutchinson.
Right.
He could have a big year or two,
Yeah, for sure. You get they got some pretty good sized guys in the middle too. Get Hutchinson on the other end. Rotate these guys out a little bit, keep them fresh. I mean, he could still drop 16, 18 sacks.
Easily.
Yeah, and not have to worry about being double, triple teamed and,
right, because they've got good linebackers, they've
constantly.
got a great bunch of safeties, they've got a good defensive unit. So, yeah, I mean, for the Lions, he could be the piece that takes them all away. He really could.
That's worth a couple first rounders because we're looking at the Lions as being they're no longer playoff hopefuls. They are now Super Bowl contenders. So
true contenders, yes.
Right. So this window that they have open for the next year or two, the first year we were worried, is it a fluke? Can they do it again? Well, they did it again. Came up a little short of playoffs, but still they're in that right window. So to give up 2 first-round picks, they're almost a second rounder at that point anyway. You're past the elite draft pick, so you're not losing much by giving those up.
Right, and we don't know what the Browns would ask for.
Right, that was just a guess.
But I'm with you. I would say it's something like that. And staying with the Browns, because here's kind of what I was alluding to with Garrett, in that I kind of think the Browns need to trade him. I hate to say that because, first of all, I'm huge on a player being able to play his whole career with one team, right?
Yeah,
like
which
Derek
is rare.
Jeter with the Yankees, or
Marino
with the Dolphins. Yes, Montana with Kansas City. But you know what I mean? Playing your whole career.
Sanders, any of that. Yeah, it's unheard of.
So
even the great talent.
I hate to see him go, but their team needs so much.
Yeah.
And he's their one piece. He's the piece that will bring more than anybody else on the team.
Right.
And here's why another reason they should trade him. Jeremiah Owusu-Komora, he's got a neck injury. Right now, they think it's possibly career-ending. If that's the case, that's another piece that you're losing.
Right.
No fault of anybody's own. It happens sometimes. But that's another huge piece that you're losing. And also, Denzel Ward, their top corner, when all this Garrett chatter started, he come out and said, hey, if the Browns trade Garrett, I'm going to question if I'm going to stay with the team as well. So, I mean, this is a domino effect. Now, the JOK was kind of separate, but I think you have to tie that in. So, you've got Garrett who's unhappy. You've got Ward who's like, look, if you trade Garrett, I'm out too, probably. You got JOK who's hurt. Your roster is just in shambles. You need talent. I think Garrett is the one bargaining piece that you could put out there and get a king's ransom for that could potentially help your team.
Yeah, because just Deshaun Watson is, I don't know how much he's going to play this year and how good he'll actually be. Nick Chubb, he's old. He's a free agent. You got Jerry Judy, I guess. Cedric Tillman. I mean, the potential's there, but who's throwing the ball? We don't know that yet.
Right.
Defense wise, who you got? You got Myles Garrett. He's your all-star, all-world. JOK,
Yeah.
That's another injury. Denzel Ward himself, he has a hard time staying on the field. Look at all the concussions he's had over the last few years.
Very true. Very true.
What do you got at safety? You got Grant Delpit, but again, another guy who sometimes struggles to stay on the field. This team looks worse and worse the more you really start picking it apart. He's got every right to one out of there. It's like being down 5 games already, and we haven't even hit free agency, and they already have a losing season. You know, it's not looking good.
And I don't know, they're sitting there at number 2, correct? They're the number 2 pick behind the Titans.
2 or 3, yeah.
I think the Giants are 3.
Giants are 3. Okay. Yeah, so you got them.
I think the Giants are 3.
Raiders are there too.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're that bad, and I'll throw the Titans in there, when you're that bad, you don't have a quarterback, you don't have any depth, you have to trade your best piece because staying with edge rushers, Tennessee gave Harold Landry permission to seek a trade.
Yeah, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah, it kind of did me too, but
I get it.
I get it, yep.
If you're going to do that with Landry, you may as well do the same with Simmons.
I think so too, but we don't want to get me started on the Titans because
we'll say that for
I could talk. Yeah, we'll do that for a separate show or a Patreon or something. You get me on that rant, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, that's more than a 6-pack. We're getting into whiskey on that one, guys. So we'll
we're going to need some hard stuff for that, for damn sure. But staying with edge rushers, this goes back to my theme. This edge rush group and class is going to change everything in it because Khalil Mack is unsure about his future and has discussed possibly retiring with his family. Now, I did see the other day that their GM and Harbaugh, their head coach Harbaugh, they seem to think that they've had some good discussions with Khalil Mack. They both want Mack back. Yeah. So that makes sense. If I'm them, I would bring back Mack and get rid of Bosa because he just
for sure. I thought I seen.
And you've got Tui Tuilopo too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like I say, I think I seen Mack was leaning towards coming back. Bosa, he's just a name, both in fantasy and NFL at this point. Yeah, financially, I figure Bosa's probably, I forget what his contract is. I want to say it was like 28, 29. I mean, it was high, whatever it was. They'd be better off cutting him out and bring Mack back. You Tuilopo, you got him. That's solid enough to build around.
Yeah, I think so too.
That buys you some time for running backs or cornerbacks or whatever else they need to build on.
Yeah, but again, this edge group. And I say group when I say the NFL free agency and trades and the draft. I think this edge group is going to change everything in the NFL. Because I think when you see one of the first dominoes fall, whether it's Garrett or whoever, I think when you see that first domino fall, I think the rest are going to follow, and it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of big moves the last few years. I guess Daniil Hunter was last year going to Houston, but that's been about it. Yeah, these other
Yeah.
guys, they're running out of time too. These guys, some of them are starting to get banged up a little more. Nick Bosa is one of them. You know,
Yep.
he's kind of fell off the last 2 years with injuries and whatnot. So these guys, I think they're seeing their windows. They're getting a little desperate here.
Yep. I agree. One piece of news that kind of is gaining some steam here and there, but I don't think is getting talked about. There was a report that there's some growing speculation that the New York Jets linebacker C.J. Mosley will retire this offseason. Just the injuries. I mean, when he's healthy and on the field, he's a dude. He's a monster. But he really can't stay healthy. And we saw in his place that Jamie and Sherwood, it was like they never missed a beat, man. I mean, he had a hell of a season this
Yeah,
year. And I saw today that the Jets
yep.
want to bring him back, which makes sense if Mosley moves on. You want to bring back your best linebacker. I know they got Quincy Williams, but you want to keep your duo intact. So for me, this makes really good sense. But if they don't get something done with him, he could be a prize in free agency too.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of linebackers that are hitting free agency this year, and he would be one of the higher priorities with his age, his speed. Because I thought he was pretty decent in coverage, or at least flying around the field, sideline to sideline. Where Mosley, he's the older guy, injuries and everything, just age in general. He was more of the downhill thumper. Let's not kid ourselves here. Sherwood pretty much took the job from him this year. I know some injuries were involved, but it was already that way. I would like to see him come back. I think that's a good spot for him to stay in New York. Like I say, we were talking about some of these guys being old and potentially retiring. Mosley was one of them. David Wagner, Demario Davis. I mean, these are all guys to watch out for. These are big time guys that have been big in fantasy for a long time. Even at their age now, most of these guys are very solid LB2s. So if we see these guys drop out with the amount of guys on free agency, it's really going to get weird this season. So many people potentially trading team or switching teams, new schemes. We got a lot of learning to do in a short amount of time to get some rankings figured out for this season.
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Somebody asked me about rankings the other day, and I was like, "Well, typically I kind of wait till the draft happens, I do some rankings, but I usually kind of wait until I start doing official rankings until the draft happens, so I can see landing spots." But man, this is going to be crazy. It really is.
There's a lot of big names. We're seeing a lot of the guys we're used to being, the fantasy studs, the stalwarts that we see. That they're moving out, and we're looking for that next group of young guys to start being the elites, the Bobby Wagners, the Levante Davids, and Jamie Sherwood. I think is one of them that should be around for a while.
And Bobby Wagner proved he still got it in Washington, man. I mean, I know he's chasing a ring.
Yeah.
And Washington I think Washington would be crazy to not bring him back.
Yeah, he fits with Dan Quinn. They're going all the way back to Seattle. They have history
that veteran leader knows what to do. Yeah. I mean, they'd be crazy to not bring him back, but if they didn't, and I'm an NFL team that needs a linebacker, looking at you, Tennessee, I mean, now he probably wouldn't go to Tennessee because they're not a contender, but if you're a contender and you need a linebacker, true.
Yeah.
But if you're a contender and you need a linebacker, Bobby Wagner for one season is worth it. He's worth
Yeah. He pretty much pick and choose his team. I think he's earned that right.
Yes, he has. Here's one that our buddy Kyle Lena, I wish he was here because I found this one interesting. The Green Bay Packers, you know, are looking to trade cornerback Jair Alexander. Now, there's some reports on offense that they're looking to do some things too, but defensively, this kind of shocked me because for the past few years they've had trouble in their secondary, and Alexander's been pretty much their best piece until this year. They got better this year, a lot better, and we'll touch on that too. But I don't know why you would want to trade your best corner because shut down potential type corners are hard to find.
Well, they've actually had some issues with him the last couple years where there was like some benching going on or like a 1-game suspension or something. So I forget what it was even about. I don't know if he got in arguments with coaches or if maybe some tweets or something, but there's something going on behind the scenes here that maybe we're not meant to really know, but there is a rift between these guys. So I didn't find this too surprising because of some of the history stuff. But it looked like last year that they were getting along fairly well. But again,
Right.
trade a guy before he falls off and get something out.
Yeah, it's better to get something than nothing, right? So
it's better to trade him too early than too late. I mean, that's the same for fantasy.
Yep.
You hold on to a guy for too long, you get nothing. So,
yep, exactly. And two NFL league news here. One, they're going to starting this year. They're going to use a virtual system to measure the first downs, which is long overdue. This is just this. I mean, in today's technology and age of what can be done, this was just way overdue. Now they are going to keep the chain gang on the sidelines as a backup or whatever, but man, I put the little chip in the ball and it hits. You can set this up or however it works, but man, I think this is going to be great.
Yeah, it's cool to see technology work its, or push us forward, I guess. They've proven they can keep these chips in shoulder pads and whatnot, take all the hits. So why can't the football do the same?
Exactly.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited for it. I do want to see how this plays out and what kind of potential problems could come out of this. Hopefully they do it in the preseason and we can get work out the kinks quick enough.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few bugs, and I'm sure it won't be exactly perfect. But I think you're right. This is going to push us in the right direction to be better overall as far as the game goes.
From an accuracy
at the end of the day, that's what we all want, right? We want correct calls. Humans are not perfect,
right?
Mistakes happen.
It's going to upset.
No more Joe Tessitore with his little index card.
Yeah.
An all-time classic moment in the NFL. But I think this is the right move. And we were talking about the off season, right? We're in it right now. The combine's on. I got it on the TV right here, off to my right. You've got the combine on. We've talked about players being disgruntled, wanting to be traded. Free agency is just a couple weeks away. I mean, it's a freight train running away down the tracks right now. And the NFL just released their numbers for 2025. So last year, the salary cap was $255.4 million, which was the highest ever in NFL history. It made I believe it was a $10 to $15 million jump, which was huge. This year, $279.2 million. So it's making a $24 million jump this year. So you got all these disgruntled players. You got the draft class coming in. You got trades happening. And, oh, yeah, we're going to give you teams another 24 million on top of what you had last year to spend. And you got to spend, is it 80 or 90% of that? I think it's 80% that teams have to spend. You have to spend that.
Yeah. There's a I forget what the limit is. It's high. It's a lot higher than you think it is.
Yes, it is. Which
You-
I
you
agree
can't-
with because
Yes,
some
yes.
owners would be like, screw this, I'm not spending this money, and they try to pocket all that shit. So this rule is in place to make them spend money. So
It's to help the balance and all that too. But yeah,
it is.
yeah. I don't know if it's as low as 80, but yeah, you're right. It is a high number, 80, 90, something like that. That they have to
Yeah,
spend.
it's 80 or 90. I can't.
Yeah.
And I heard them say it this morning on the radio, and I can't remember for the life of me what it was. So that does it for our news and notes. That took us almost an hour. Of course, we were behind, and we had some good things to talk about.
We get off
Again,
track sometimes.
Trophy Smack. Yeah, we do. Again, Trophy Smack. If you need something for your league champion, fantasy football, baseball, whatever fantasy sport you play, maybe you've got a golf outing and you want to crown your winner. Right there. Look at that. That thing is absolutely beautiful, man. Great shout out to them. I plug them every chance I get. We're so grateful that they are willing to partner with us and donate rings to our listener league winners. Because a lot of places wouldn't do that, right? I mean, they'd make you pay for them, and so every chance I get to plug them and tell everyone how great they are, I'm going to do it because they're worth it. They got good prices. I mean, it's not like it's exorbitant when you go shopping around. You'll see that, and the quality of their stuff is second to nobody. You'll not find anybody that does anything better than what they can put together. They've got. I don't know if you've seen it, Sean, but they got the bling chains that everybody's wearing now. The big chains.
Yeah, turnover chains and all that.
Yeah, the turnover chains. They're doing all that. You can get those. You can get those any way you want with whatever. They're doing wall plaques with sport figures on the back. So yeah, they're doing all kinds of things. But we want to thank them, support them.
Every time we get on there, there's something new. I seen they're doing a championship helmet now too, like a replica helmet.
Oh wow! Oh, I've not seen that yet.
Yeah, I seen it the other day. It's got like a gold face mask, I think a dark visor on that, fantasy football champion or whatever you want to put on there. Now that one was a little higher, but you need a good display piece. You got the money and the room for it. Yeah, why not put a big old replica full size helmet in there?
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, we thank Trophy Smack. They're so good to us, and they got great quality stuff at a good price. So go check them out. You can find a discount link in my bio. If you can't find it, just shoot me a message on Twitter at Hollywood Titan, and I'll send it to you. But yeah, go check them out and support them. Our main event, like I said, we're running behind on the season because we have missed some episodes. IDP season awards. And we're going to go by position here. This should be fun. So, top defensive tackle, and when I say IDP awards, I'm thinking actual IDP, right? Because sometimes
we're talking fantasy.
What happens in the NFL? Yeah, we're talking fantasy, not actual NFL. A lot of times they'll coincide, sometimes they won't. But top defensive tackle for me was Cameron Hayward for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been around, it seems like, for freaking
Forever.
ever. Right?
I was thinking that too, man.
He's actually he will turn 36 on May the 6th. So he's gonna this season he'll be 36.
Yeah, it's crazy he can still produce
He's
with the
played
amount of snaps he's
14
played.
seasons. Yeah, he's played 14 seasons, all with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I love.
Yeah.
Right. And man, he was in Defensive Player of the Year contention, Comeback Player of the Year contention because he got hurt last year. But man, what another good season! 71 tackles, 8 sacks, 12 TFLs, 20 quarterback hits, 11 pass deflections for a defensive tackle. That's unheard of. There's cornerbacks and safeties that don't get that in a season. And here he is just batting passes down left and right. So for me, top defensive tackle in IDP was Cameron Hayward.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. At his age, I don't think that can be stressed enough that he's still producing at an elite level, especially for IDP. Yeah, that's incredible. Like I say, man, he's been around forever. I went with Leonard Williams, who, like we were saying earlier, was actually being talked about as a potential defensive player of the year candidate, where he had just a string of games where he was just really popping off. But yeah, not quite as old as Cameron Hayward. He'll be 31 next season. 64 tackles, 11 sacks for the second time he's hit double digits in his career. 16 for a loss, 28 quarterback hits, which was a career high. 3 pass deflections, 1 interception that went 92 yards for a touchdown. And anytime a big man could run 92 yards for a touchdown, I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But yeah,
hey, I agree with you.
I mean, he's had some good seasons. He's been he's moved around a lot on the defensive line. Sometimes some years he's been a defensive tackle. Sometimes he's more the defensive end or edge, whatever you want to call it. I think he usually plays around in that 3 technique. But yeah, dude's been solid for a long time. Not quite to the level of Hayward, but I thought he had a really good season.
Yeah, I thought about him too. He just had such a great season up there, right? I mean, yeah, it was tough. I think this was one of the tougher ones position-wise. I think this was one of the tougher decisions for me.
Sure.
And what a season, right? Because the 11 sacks is what really stands out, right? The 28 quarterback hits, the 16 TFLs. But the 11 sacks, the last time that he had 10 or more sacks was in 2020 when he was a member of the Giants. So, it'd been a little bit. And actually, it's only the second time in his 10-year career that he's had double-digit sacks. So, yeah, I mean, and he's a great fit up there, right? I mean, he kind of fits what Seattle likes to do defensively. So, yeah. Yeah, good choices. Okay, so let's move on to defensive ends. For me, we already kind of mentioned him, and that's Trey Hendrickson for the Cincinnati Bengals. What a freaking fantastic season, man. I mean, if you would have asked me at the beginning of the year to pick who I thought would lead the NFL in sacks, it wouldn't have been Hendrickson.
No. Maybe a top 10 pick,
and that,
not number 1.
Right. And he led the NFL with 17 and a half sacks, which is the second year in a row that he's had 17 and a half sacks. He had the same amount last year. So he's had 35 sacks in 34 games. That's over one a game.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn impressive.
Man, you
46
can't.
tackles was a career high for him. That was a new career high. He had 19 TFLs, which was a career high. 36 quarterback hits was a career high. And, he added 6 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles. He was just a monster for the Bengals this year. And while I thought he was one of the better premier pass rushers, I mean, he showed it last year, right? 17 and a half sacks. And then he duplicates it this year. I just did not see this type of season coming from him. And Cincinnati's going to have to make a decision real soon with him. I know they've got some issues with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase wanting a new contract. We've got Joe Burrow, but Hendrickson is coming up on a contract deal too, and I don't know that they'll quite. I don't know what the plan is, and I don't know exactly what he's got left on his deal. But they're going to have to find some money somewhere, and if they don't, and he hits free agency in next year or whenever it is, he's going to command a high dollar.
Yeah, ever since he broke out there in New Orleans, it was he was either sack or nothing. You know, he doesn't really offer a whole lot of tackles. And this year it felt like he was, but just a solid guy. I mean, this is what I look for when I'm playing IDP. I want a guy I can put in there. He's going to give me a sack about every week, handful of tackles, or whatever. I put him in, and I don't have to worry about that position except for a bye week. And then I can focus on the rest of my roster. Like he's my ideal edge rusher that I want on my team, and I don't have to take him early because he does fall back. He gets overlooked because he's not Myles Garrett. He's not Danielle Hunter, Bosa and all that. So that's probably going to change now.
Yeah.
He's probably going to move
when you
up.
have 35 sacks in the last 2 seasons. Yeah, he's going to get some love this year, I would say.
It's fantastic. I went with Nick Bonito for the Denver Broncos, and for a similar reason. Because there for like 10 weeks in a row, it felt like he was getting a sack every week. Very similar to the way Trey Hendrickson plays or produces with the sacks. Give me a sack every week, couple tackles, throw in a big play every now and then. That's what I like. But for Benito, it's his 3rd year. He actually got to take off this year in starter. So we got to see 13 and a half sacks, 48 tackles, 16 tackles for a loss, 24 quarterback hits, 1 interception, 71 yards for a touchdown, and a 50-yard fumble return for a touchdown. Added 4 pass deflections and 2 forced fumbles. So not only am I getting that sack every week, you got potential for a touchdown, a couple of extra bonus plays, forced fumbles, stuff like that. A few games with 4 or 5 tackles. That's a guy I really hope is going to go unnoticed again for the next year or two before he's the next big thing we're talking about every week. But his consistency, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yep, I agree. Good pick. I like it. Next position is linebacker. And I feel like we could probably talk about this spot forever. Top fantasy linebacker. And I'm going to make this short and sweet because we may or may not be talking about my player again here. But for top fantasy linebacker, I picked Zach Bond. Played his first 4 seasons in New Orleans, come over to Philadelphia this year and help them win a championship. 151 tackles, 93 solos, 11 TFLs, 3.5 sacks, 4 pass deflections, 5 forced fumbles. So he did a little bit of everything for them, right? He finished 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Got his first All-Pro honor and first Pro Bowl honor. I mean, in
Super
4
Bowl champ.
seasons in New Orleans, yeah, Super Bowl champ. In 4 seasons in New Orleans, he only had 88 tackles.
Yeah.
88 tackles. He comes to Philadelphia and damn near double tackles.
Out of nowhere. That's what makes it great.
Out of nowhere, yes, because I don't care who you are. I don't think anybody truly saw Zach Bond breaking out with Philadelphia, not with N'Kobe Dean and some of the other players they had. Zach Bond just wasn't high on anybody's radar. And to come out of nowhere like that and have the type of season he had, for fantasy, if you got on him early, and let me scroll up here. So, like right out of the gate, right? His first game, 7 tackles. So here's his first 5 games: 7, 12, 6, 8, 7. Not super great, right? But that's enough to get you on the radar. And if you were smart enough to grab him then, he probably helped you win a championship this year, because after those first 5, he went 10, 5, 11, 13, 3, 15, 8, 10, 12, 6, 8, 6, 13, 9, and 15. He was probably your best linebacker, most likely, for the rest of the season. He probably carried you through the playoffs and everything. And again, we're talking fantasy. It's one thing to have, your Fred Warners and your Nick Boltons and your Zaire Franklins, who you know, but for a player who was pretty much just an LB
4,
3 or 4 at best.
Yeah.
To
Just
turn into an LB1 and help you win a championship, I think he's got to be. For me, he's got to be the choice at linebacker.
Yeah, that's those were all my arguing points for later. And I thought that was the right. Yeah. Spoiler. I was going to go Bond. You had already taken him, so I took Zaire Franklin. The stats are very similar when you break it down.
And Franklin, I don't hate that pick, but you.
Right, but you had to pay up for Franklin is the big thing here. But he was one of the top linebackers taken, but he also produced as one of the top linebackers. So you got your return value, which doesn't always happen, but it's nice when it does. 173 tackles, led the league. 4 quarterback hits, 3.5 sacks, 11 TFLs, 5 forced fumbles, 6 deflections, 2 interceptions. Yeah, there was only like 2 weeks he got under 8 tackles, and this dude was getting 9 to 15 tackles a week. Throw in some interceptions, some sacks. You can't ask for better for a top 5 pick. So getting return value is always great. Use that higher pick for Zaire Franklin, and he delivered. Like I said, the stats are very similar to Bond's. The big difference is the snaps played. Zaire Franklin had to play 200 more snaps on the season, and that's because the Colts struggled so bad on offense that he was on the field more. So that's something you want to look at next year. What offense looks so bad that they're not going to be on the field as much? So you want to start picking players from that defense. That's always something to look at.
Right. And another thing that I've been getting into more personally with fantasy, and I just happened to look at it here. He's had back-to-back seasons with 170 plus tackles. He led the NFL this year with 173, like you said. But he's had 3 straight seasons of over 165. But I'm looking at this season because that's what we're talking about this season, right? He had 173 and led the NFL, and he did it with a 12.2 missed tackle rate, which is insane. That's high.
And that is
Well, 0.2 is high. That's putting you in like your. I'm trying to reverse it here. Like you want to be under 10% to be above average.
this.
So
Your elite guys hang anywhere from 4 to 7,
yeah,
8, somewhere around there.
yeah,
So I
and this
realize
was
8 to 12 isn't a huge jump, but it is significant.
yeah, and I thought this was a weird anomaly for him because throughout his career, he's never been above 10% in missed tackle percentage until this year. But yet he led the NFL with tackles. So,
Again,
if he
I think it
drops
had a
that,
lot to do with all the extra snaps they had to play on defense because they're for I want to say the first 3 games, I think their average was like nearly 80 snaps. Like they were just so bad this first few games. You're on the field that much, you're getting tired. It's you're going to miss some tackles. So I think that was, like you said, it was a bit of an anomaly to be that high for him. I would expect that to come back down next year. Probably the bigger concern is he's going to be 29 next season. So
he
he's
will be
age wise, he's getting
29
up there.
on July the 2nd.
Okay, so yeah, I wouldn't expect him to hit these numbers like he has last 2 or 3 seasons. Not much longer. We've seen Foye Aluakon, for 2 or 3 years he was the top guy. Franklin's been right there behind him, for a couple of these. So we see it's not sustainable for like 5 years, 6 years. But again, the Colts still look bad, so
Right?
he's got a chance.
Yes, he does.
Just something to keep an eye on.
Right. Yep. Our next position is going to be cornerback, and for many of you, or the general consensus, most stadiums don't utilize cornerbacks in your league. You're probably playing in general type leagues where it's defensive linemen, linebackers, defensive backs, which means you're attacking
Right.
with your safeties. Occasionally, you'll get the corner that'll help you, but this is more for those of you who play position specific. And my winner for top corner this year was Alontae Taylor for the New Orleans Saints. Now, I know his teammate Paulson Adebo was having a heck of a year as well before he got injured. But it was how they were using Taylor, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of tailed off. Well, I don't know that it tailed off. I just think people were paying more attention to him.
Well, so yeah, sorry to catch you off, but yeah, the Saints,
No, you're
their
good.
big thing was Taylor played that nickel role. So he was in the slot. So he was up near the line of scrimmage. And after some of the injuries, and then I think Lattimore got traded away, we seen Taylor move to the outside, and Ugo Amadi came in and took over that. And we seen Amadi pick up the production that Taylor was getting. So, but then again, with Taylor not being as comfortable on the outside, he did get torched a bit, so he was targeted more. So he was able to keep some high numbers throughout the season as well, but just not as high as what he was getting in the slot there. So that's if you can see that happening again next year, whether it be the Saints or any other team, how they utilize that slot, that nickel, those are the guys you want to target. For sure,
right?
Because, like I said,
and Taylor,
we
Taylor
seen
had a
when Amadi
career
came in, he
year
did the same
despite
thing.
that moving. Yeah.
Right.
So he had a career high 89 tackles, a career high 61 solos. Which why do we bring up solos? Because they're worth more points. So he's there.
Most
he had 7 TFLs, which was a career high 6 QB hits, career high 4 sacks. So if you can find a corner, like you were talking about him playing in the slot early on, or the nickel, where he can, where they utilize him as a blitzer, that's just golden. Which kind of remind me of, oh gosh, my brain's blanking. He played for Houston. He played for the Chargers. Me and Dan talked about him forever, and I can't think of his name. Anyway,
King.
when you can utilize a corner as a blitzer, especially in fantasy, and you're getting those points, those TFLs, those sacks, those quarterback hits, that's huge.
Yeah.
But he had a career high 16 PBUs this year. He's had 11 his rookie year, 14 last year, and 14 the next year, and then 16 last year. 41 PBUs in 47 games. So, I mean, he had a career year. And for me, I think he just stood out with his ability to play the nickel and be utilized as a blitzer. If Umadi, or not Umadi, but if Adebo hadn't got hurt, I bet his numbers would have been insane as far as pass rushing, or blitzing.
Yeah, because even with Lattimore there, he was the other outside guy. Once he got traded mid-season there, that
Right.
was two openings that they had outside, so they had to move guys around. And yeah, if he could have stayed there in the slot the entire season, we would have seen more sacks, probably forced fumbles,
Right.
which half the time go hand in hand with sacks. It doesn't always give a lot of chances for interceptions, but when you're getting the sacks and the tackles, forced fumbles, stuff like that, you don't need them. They're just an extra bonus if you do get them. Yeah, so I thought Taylor was a great pick. He was the first guy I thought of as well. I ended up going
Well, you should have picked him. I hate it that you didn't pick the same guys just because I picked them.
Well,
you should have picked whoever.
Yeah, I'll let you do it. And that allowed me to dig a little deeper and find some other guys that probably deserves a little shout out. Marlon Humphrey's the guy I went with. We've seen him in the past get a bunch of forced fumbles. But injuries, I think last year really, cut him short. This year we got to see him 67 tackles, 50 solos, which are great. 4 cornerback hits, 5 TFLs, half sack, not great, but hey, bonus points, we'll take them. 2 forced fumbles, 15 passes deflected. That crowd is tied a career high. Again, some of these leagues give even bigger bonus points, so that's always nice. 6 interceptions were a career highs, so definitely a big fan of that. And 1 return for a touchdown. So he actually had a really good season. I do feel like it was a quiet season, but a very solid one. It just wasn't, broadcast as, hey, he's really turning it up this year. But when you look at the numbers, very solid.
Yeah, and he's been one of those players who's – it seems like he's kind of changed every year, right? So, like, if you go back to 2020, he had 82 tackles with 70 solos. That's insane. That solo rate, that's insane, right? 82 tackles for a corner, that's pretty damn good. But he also had 8 forced fumbles, which led the league that year. 8 forced fumbles. When you think of forced fumbles, you're thinking TJ Watts, Khalil Max, JJ Watts, people who are rushing the passer. He did this as a corner and led the league with 8.
That's
then
not
you mentioned
fumble
this
recoveries.
Year,
those are forced fumbles. Big difference.
Yeah. Big difference. Then you mentioned this year. It was like he was a completely different player with the 6 interceptions, right? And then he tied his career high with 15 PBUs. I mean, it's like to try to pin him into something I think is hard to do. But if you look at him as a potential jack of all trades type corner, I think that shoots his value through the roof. Now, will he get a sack or will it be an interception? Will he force a fumble? Who knows? But I think his ability to do well at all those, I think that helps his overall value.
Yeah, just playing on the Ravens boosts a lot of players, but also I feel like that's why he got kind of lost. Roquan, Kyle Hamilton, these guys kind of steal the spotlight, steal the show to an extent. Adolfo Owe, coming on strong, getting sacks and all. So a guy like Marlon Humphrey kind of went unnoticed when he actually was having – for a cornerback to keep solid numbers each week is tough. But it felt like he did really well most weeks. So he was one of the few guys you could probably start, not have to worry about streaming each week.
Right. So now we're going to move to safety. And I feel like we're going to talk about safeties quite a bit here for a minute. And we're actually going to go back to a conversation that I wanted to pick on earlier. But for safeties, it's weird because we both picked the Detroit line as our top safety for fantasy. I picked Brian Branch. And, man, this is his second year in the league. And there was so much hype when he came out of college, right? And he didn't disappoint as a rookie. He did not disappoint. But, man, he took his game to another level this year. 109 tackles, 79 solos, 8 TFLs. He had a sack, 4 interceptions, 16 pass breakups. Just a jack of all trades for them, right? And, man, it was 7, 6, 9, 6. I mean, he was above 6 tackles or more all season long, and he had 4 games with double digits. He had the big game against Dallas, 6 tackles, 5 solos, 2 interceptions, 2 pass deflections, a forced fumble. He really is a jack of all trades. I mean, he can do so many things. He's willing to come down in the box and make tackles. He's not afraid to hit, right? And a lot of times when you see a player like that, they kind of lack a little bit in coverage, but he doesn't. I mean, he's so good in coverage. Now, of course, your guy will help, but still, he's so good in coverage, he can hold his own, right? And I think him and your guy, I'll let you talk about your guy here in a minute, but I think the two of them, with an Aiden Hutchinson up front, with a Jack Campbell in the middle, you've got a Terry and Arnold on the outside. Can you imagine if you drop a Myles Garrett in there? It'd be fucking insane, man. That would be straight stealing.
It'd be unfair to the rest of the league. Because
it would.
Yeah, like I say, Branch, this was only his second year. I went with Kirby Joseph. It's his third year.
And I almost started to pick him, by the way. I almost started to pick him.
See, I really thought you were going to take Xavier McKinney. It was between McKinney and Joseph for me. And they had actually very similar seasons. Joseph had just a few more, or maybe just one more interception. But yeah, Kirby Joseph, I look at all 3 of the years he's been in the league. And from a tackle standpoint, he's consistent. It's 83, 82, 82. Those are very consistent numbers. I mean, I dig consistency. I hate a guy like Kyle Hamilton. I know he can give you big points, but it's only in this week and that week, and all the other weeks there are pits, peaks and pits. And I want steady numbers across the board with potential for a spike and not a potential goose egg, I guess. So, Kobe Joseph. Both these guys are young. They're a great tandem. They work very well with each other. Career high 9 interceptions for Joseph, 1 for a touchdown, 12 pass breakups. Not a whole lot after that. He doesn't play up close. It's more Branch's forte there. Joseph is the last defense there on the backside, and yeah, he produced very solid numbers. No, he's not a guy that I'm going to go and take as my safety 1, but but I can get him as a safety 2 or 3 because he's going to go unnoticed outside of the interceptions he had this year. Those 80 tackles he was getting every year, those are very solid numbers. That allows me to go draft somebody else or take some more depth somewhere else and then come back and get him for near nothing. Because people are going to see Brian Branch and be like, oh, definitely going to get him. So I can get close to the same production a few rounds later
Right.
and hammer some other position. Both these guys, from an NFL perspective, they're a great tandem. I really like what they're doing there in Detroit with those two.
Dude, I love what they're doing in Detroit, period.
Yeah. What a turnaround.
I know, right?
They deserved it.
And
They deserved it.
And up next, and safety. Let me preface this by saying, safety position for me was the hardest one. This was so damn hard. And
Yeah.
we've got defensive rookie of the year, and we got defensive MVP. And I'm going to talk about safeties, even though one of them I did pick a safety to win, the other one I didn't. But you kind of mentioned him. So let's go with defensive rookie of the year. But safety was just so damn hard because the play was good. Defensive rookie of the year. And I know we mentioned earlier that Jared Verse won the award for the NFL, but we're talking fantasy. For me, it was Tyler Newton. And I know right away the comments are going to be, well, he got hurt and missed part of the season. Yes, he did. He absolutely
He was fire when he was on the field, though.
He played 13 games, which most likely, well, not most likely, but that is your fantasy season. 13 or 14 games, depending on your schedule, is your fantasy season. And in those 13 or 14 games, he probably helped carry you to a damn playoff. 98 tackles, 57 solos, 4 TFLs. He was a tackling machine. Now, remember, they let Xavier McKinney walk, the Giants did. They drafted Tyler Newton, and they never missed a freaking beat. In fact, I talked about he just played 13 games, but when it come crunch time, week 10, week 11, week 12, and week 13, 12 tackles, 12 tackles, 12 tackles, 5 tackles. The man was a monster, and he had, throughout the season, 9, 9, 9, 8. I mean, he was just every week a plug-and-play option for you as a rookie. He probably didn't have a super ton of draft capital, but in IDP leagues, you probably did pick him, I don't know, 3rd, 4th round, which is not super high, but you did have a little investment. But compared to what it takes to get a quality safety, that's nothing. And if he hadn't have got hurt, man, he would have probably won some people some championships easily. I think he was right there with your guy, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, and I've got another guy I'll talk about in a minute, but I think that's why I said the safety position this year was so damn hard. I know your guy that you're fixing to talk about won the NFL award, but man, from a fantasy standpoint, you couldn't have asked for a better value than picking Tyler Newton in the draft and getting this kind of production.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I thought Newton was the right pick. But again, I thought Newton was the right choice. I would have went Newton. And so I just pivoted to Jared Verse. Again, we talked about some of his stats earlier and all that. Nothing crazy high. 4.5 sacks, 66 tackles. That's actually pretty good. 66 tackles.
That's really
36.
Good.
Yeah, 36 solo, 30 assists. Would like to see those shift a little more to the solo side instead of 30 assists is quite a bit on 66 tackles. But 11 tackles for a loss, 18 quarterback hits, 2 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 pass deflections. He also had 33 pressures. But looking across the board, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about as far as other rookies. Linebackers, we didn't see a lot of them play for an extended period of time as starters to say, hey, he's a for sure IDP stud. Same thing with versus one of them, teammate Fisk. Had some really good weeks. Even Chop Robinson picked up there towards the end of the season. But as far as start to finish, with the production he got and with the potential he shows for the future and all that too, I thought Jared Verse was, the second best I could come up with at the time. So,
and just we talked about it earlier when we were talking about the Rams first winning NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
but how damn good are they at their evaluations for defensive lineman rookies? And
yeah,
considering they lost maybe the greatest defensive tackle, Aaron Donald, he retired on them. And what did they do? They went and got Kobe Turner. They went and got Byron Young. Then they turned around and they got Jared Verse and they got Brandon Fisk. Yeah. That's 4 home runs. You don't do that. Especially, that would be, I promise you, if the Browns trade Myles Garrett, they will not be able to pull that off like the Rams did. No way. No way. No way.
We've seen what they can do.
4 players that can pick up his slack. No way.
They couldn't do that probably the next 10 years. Pick four people to pull that off. The Browns the Browns are just a mess right now. But yeah, that's like I said, fantastic valuations. I wish I could evaluate players that well. I don't know if you remember a few years ago when we were talking about Brian Branch and it was Antonio Johnson was it was Branch or Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Top safety. I was big on
him, wasn't it?
I was big on the Johnson train there, and he pretty much sat his rookie year and then played this year. Started out decent, but just looked lost in coverage. So he ended up getting benched and all. So I think Skinner was another big guy I wanted that year, and he hasn't done anything either. So I would like to get better at evaluating safeties and defensive backs. If I could do it as well as the Rams are evaluating D-line, I'd be hitting home runs every week. But I'm not. So
if you were doing that, you'd probably be for an NFL team.
That'd be cool. I haven't tried that yet in my life.
That would be awesome.
It sounds like it pays well.
I've heard it does pay pretty good. It's above average from what I hear.
No offense to Trophy Smack, but if I was doing that for the NFL, I might get a really nice ring.
Hey, I'm telling you. All right, so we are up to our final award of the year, Defensive MVP. We both picked Zach Bond.
I had to stick with him. Yep. I couldn't pivot this time.
And I don't blame you. And I'll kind of use one of your sentences. I think this was the right choice. Because what I said earlier, nobody really had him on their radar. And for him to come out of nowhere and do what he done for the season, I think he earned it. I really do. I think he was what you had invested and what he gave you.
Right.
That's hard to overcome. That's really hard to overcome. My one caveat or pivot here, and I told you about safeties, and you mentioned him, is Xavier McKinney. He had 88 tackles, 60 solos, 8 interceptions, 11 PBUs. If this was a mid-season award, Xavier McKinney's your IDP MVP. Easily. Because his 7 interceptions, let's see, he come 1, 2, 3, 4. He had an interception in the first 5 games. 1 interception in the first 5. He had 6 interceptions in the first 8 games of the season. So from that standpoint, if it's a midseason award, he wins it hands down because he's getting the tackles, he's getting the interceptions. And then I don't know what happened. The tackles seem to stay there. Actually, the tackles increased. He started getting up, 9, 8, 7, up in that territory. But the interceptions, he disappeared. He only had 2 interceptions in the back half of the season. And his pass deflections fell a little bit. So I don't know. Like I said, I wish Kyle was here because he could maybe tell us better because he's a Packers fan. But
I don't.
That drop off, that inconsistency is what lost it for me. First half, definitely him. Full season, it's fine because Vaughn was consistent all year. The value, like I said, what you had invested in Vaughn, what he gave you was more because you probably had you had more invested in McKinney if you had him on your roster.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a tough one for me because I really thought Xavier McKinney was leaving New York to go to Green Bay and then having that start to the season. I mean, he was winning you games every week for the first 5 or 6 weeks with those interceptions. And then it just kind of disappeared. So,
which, to get an interception 5 straight games to kick the season off, we knew it was going to fall off eventually, but I think we were all surprised how long it went on. And like I said, 6 in the first 7 or 8. I mean, that's fantastic. I don't know if it came down to maybe they started utilizing him different. Maybe I haven't dove in it too much. I do know they had Javon Bullard and Evan Williams as their other safeties, and they were kind of moving those guys around. And so that may have been part of it too. So he may have been, covering the field differently after that point or something. Right. I haven't dug that deep in it. But yeah, McKinney definitely, he definitely deserved a shout out. Like I said, I almost.
And I was a huge McKinney fan when he was with the Giants.
Yeah.
And when he made the move to Green Bay, I was like, man, this is a home run for Green Bay because in the past few seasons, their damn weak spot was safety. I mean, they got burnt at safety a lot. Right. So to be able to pick up a guy like McKinney, I was like, man, this is a freaking grand slam, right? And I was loving it. But even then, I didn't see this coming. Not this kind of performance.
I was actually a little worried that because Green Bay was a better defense collectively, that we might see his production fall off. And tackle-wise, it did fall off some, but he was making up for it with, the big plays, the interceptions and stuff. So, that gives me a lot of hope going forward that he is still going to be able to produce. Sometimes these guys, especially defensive backs, they go to a different team, do schemes, slightly different roles, and it really tweaks their stats. But it's hard to repeat as a safety anyway each year. But for him to come back, he did return, I'd say, good value for his investment. Like I say, going back to Bond, nobody was looking at him to be as high as he finished. So you got, a top linebacker as probably your LB4, because even at the beginning of the season, we were hearing, Bond might be one of the starters, but we were like, is he though? Was he going to play 40%? Something like that. We were still thinking Devin White at this point.
And Nakobe Dean. We were thinking Bond was like, the third guy at best. Yeah.
Right, a rotation guy, and they, rumors started picking up, and so if you did get in soon enough, you could have got this guy as maybe your LB5, depending on how deep you play.
That's insane. Did you just hear what you said?
Yeah,
you could have probably maybe got this guy as your LB5, and he's the IDP defensive MVP.
Yeah, and that's why. I mean, his value is crazy.
Oh my God, that's insane.
It showed in his first game. They were playing. Where did they play that first game? Mexico or Brazil or something? I don't think it was in the U.S.
Yeah.
But he popped off for I don't know, double-digit tackles and sacks, and he was just all over the place. And I was like, wow, this is for real, huh? And it was. I mean, it was great to see. For a guy to be stuck on the Saints, playing out of position, I guess you'd say. and not really given that chance. And then to switch teams, got the right defensive coordinator involved too, and just popped off all the way to a Super Bowl. That's fantastic, and led us to championships. So I mean, he hooked everybody up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's insane. So that does it for our defensive awards, IDP awards for the season. I know we've talked about it a lot. You're mainly a redraft guy, and I'm more of a dynasty guy. So in redraft, because I think this is really important here. So it sounds like Philadelphia wants to try to keep Bond. They're really interested in trying to keep him because he only signed a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Until we know what happens, and I have to imagine that they keep him. I mean, they've got to after what he did for them. As far as redraft goes, what are you doing with him in redraft? Are you
in redraft?
I mean, where do you? Yeah,
I think he's jumped up. If he stays in Philadelphia, I think he has to be one of your top 12 linebackers taken. And I use 12 as just LB1. But not the overall LB1, but I think he's in that probably top 6, 7. I'm trying to think who all I would put a hold of in front of him. I'm taking Roquan for sure. Zaire Franklin's going to be ahead of him. I'm probably going to have a guy like Jamie Sherwood right beside him. I could probably flip those two at any point.
That's a very good comparison right there. That's 3. What about Logan Wilson if Pratt's gone?
I would take Logan Wilson probably over them. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. A guy like Bobby Wagner, I'm letting drop back because of age and uncertainties there. Levante Davis,
he's starting to drop down my ranking. But he's still so damn good, though.
I don't know who else I'd really take over him. Maybe Ernest Jones, if he's solidified on the Seahawks or whatever. But that's, I don't know.
Oh, I couldn't.
Couldn't.
Ernest Jones, there's no way I could take Ernest Jones right now over Bond.
Yeah.
Not with what we've seen this season. I know there's uncertainty with Bond signing, but Jones was traded twice in the season, less and less each time, and fell off.
So weird too, man. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. Maybe it's just that hot of a commodity, and everybody wants him. I really don't.
What even is more puzzling, and you know this as well as I do, that the Titans fucking traded him for less than they traded him for, and they needed a linebacker.
Hey, Tennessee's going to Tennessee, man. I don't know what to say.
They were dying for linebacker help, and they traded him.
We'll have to go.
Understand that.
We'll have to do a full Titans show where we just talk about offense and defense and let you just pop off.
Oh God. But
yeah,
I might get a cease and desist restraining order from the Titans organization if we do that.
Who else would I put
over?
I'm trying to think about. I'm just trying to go division in my head.
What about Jordan Brooks?
No, I'm not putting Jordan Brooks that high. He did pick up. He was solid, but Vaughn's higher than Brooks.
What about Caden Ellis for Atlanta?
Caden Ellis, he's solid.
151 tackles and 5 sacks on the season.
I think he's right there with him. I think he's in that same group. And that's because of the uncertainty with Landman or Anderson at the, they're just rotating those guys out.
Fred Warner?
Solid pick. I put Fred Warner over Bond, I think.
Okay.
Slightly.
What about this will be interesting. What about TJ Edwards? 129 tackles, 4 sacks.
I'll take Bond over Edwards.
Nice. Okay. I'm trying to look at other linebackers. What about Blake Cashman? 112 tackles, 4.5 sacks.
I can't in good conscience take Blake Cashman over
I
those
couldn't either.
guys.
Yeah. So
Injury concerns. Alshire is somebody I don't know where to put him compared to Bond.
I think I take
Alshire's
Bond
potentials though.
over him.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
hate
think
it.
I take Bond over him.
See, I think Bond has jumped up. He's definitely a linebacker one. He's right there at
Yeah,
that top
I think
five by the looks of it.
I think you're right. I think he's in that top 6 linebacker spot.
But if he's moving
Somewhere in
up,
that top 6.
somebody's moving back that I can get on a discount, maybe get a good deal on, maybe like Alex Singleton, somebody like that who was injured and overlooked. You might pop off again next year.
Speaking of Josie Jewell, he got hurt late for Carolina. That would be one. And he was having a hell of a season for the Panthers.
I tell you what, I've been really impressed with Nakobe Dean. I hate that he didn't get to play in the Super Bowl. I think Nakobe Dean's right there as one of those next guys up too. That's gonna, I hope, go unnoticed. I think he'll have another big year.
Well, he had 128 tackles, 80 solos, 3 sacks, 9 TFLs, an interception. Not bad. Not bad at all.
It felt like he had more sacks than that, but yeah, it's very solid for a guy that I thought would not pan out so well.
Right. Awesome. Here's one.
Next big thing. We got.
What about Robert Spillane?
He's going to be a free agent, so I'm going to say landing spot dependent. If Spillane sticks with the Raiders, God, he's right there with them.
Right?
Yeah. I'm really going to look at a list of linebackers and try to break these men into tiers. There's such a
but I think I'm with you though. I think Bond is a top 6 linebacker, and I think even in
there's concern that it's a one-year wonder, right? That would be your only real concern. But it's IDP.
But he's only 28.
He's only 28,
and he don't turn 29 until December.
I think Vic Fangio is going to be there again, so it's same defense. Most of that team's going to be the same. They're all young.
And I think I have the same concerns in Dynasty that you do as a redraft. But like I said, they want to re-sign him. They want him back. If he stays in Philadelphia, I think I'm following what you're putting down. I think he's a top 6 linebacker if he stays in Philadelphia. They can get him back on the roster. Because I imagine if they re-sign him, they'll probably give him a 2 or 3 year deal at least.
Yeah, I would think so. At least 3.
Yeah. So it's not often that Dynasty and redraft kind of tell each other and mirror each other. But I think in this instance, if he stays in Philadelphia, I think
I'd say more often than not, you could play Dynasty IDP very similar to redraft. I think it's on the offense where you really have to separate the two more. I guess depending on the position, if you do have an elite edge rusher, it's different. But like when it comes to defensive backs, they're so volatile that it could be anybody's game, it could be anybody's year, that you have to treat those guys almost as redraft. And linebackers, I feel like a lot of them are interchangeable, depending on how deep your rosters are. But you could actually play Dynasty very similar to redraft on the IDP side. I'd say from linebackers and defensive back perspective. Now, when you're dealing with defensive line, whether it be defensive tackles, edge rushers, whatever, I think that's where it separates, where you got truly elite guys you want in Dynasty, that you're not going to do the same with in redraft.
Right. I'm with you. What? Just wanted to pick your brain there a little bit on him.
I'm
great show.
The Kool-Aid. I'm sold on him.
I wasn't to begin the year, I honestly thought this was
A fluke.
a 1-year wonder type deal. I really did, and I still kind of had my reservations, right? Because until this year, we saw nothing from him in New Orleans that said this is this type of guy. We just didn't see it.
And I
But
think
I
it's because
look
he's
at
out of
what
position.
Philadelphia has. I think N'Kobe Dean would be his one
I think
competition.
I think they complement each other so well because
I do too, because like we said at the beginning, it was Devin White and N'Kobe Dean. We thought,
that was the thought. Yeah,
White's done. It looks like so. I think
yeah.
Vaughn in that. I think Vaughn in that position.
If you go back and look up Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator, he's really good at putting out two good, solid tackling linebackers. I think he usually runs a 3-4. Now, the one bad year was the year before. He was actually in Miami, and it just didn't pan out there. But if you go back historically, some of his other teams that he's put together, he usually has two startable IDP linebackers. And that's well-rounded linebackers, sacks, fumbles, few interceptions. So because he's staying there, I feel comfortable in saying Vaughn is not a 1-year wonder. Now, if he were to leave and go to another team, or if Vic Fangio leaves, I'm a little more concerned at that point. But I really don't see why Philadelphia can't keep him. I feel like they'll let Josh Sweat, somebody like that, leave.
Yeah, I think Josh Sweat's going to command after the Super Bowl performance. He's going to command a big price tag, and I think somebody's going to overpay him. He's going to take it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Probably somebody like Dallas who could use another edge rusher. But
because they're losing DeMarcus Lawrence. He's
old. He's done.
We talked about this edge class all night, or this edge group, but apparently he's 100% healthy, but he's a free agent. So I don't see Dallas bringing him back. So they're going to want to find somebody they can pair with Micah Parsons, I would imagine.
Well, I said Dallas, but realistically, they're not going to probably be able to afford like a big free agent signing like Sweat and Parsons. But you get my drift. I do see Sweat being the odd man out. But you see Nolan Smith pick up. He really started picking up there at the end of the year, popping off. You got Carter there. You got Jordan Davis up front. The Philadelphia, Bulldogs look really good for the future.
Yeah, Philadelphia Bulldogs,
Yeah.
Well, that does it for our show. We recapped the season, our award winners. Again, huge shout out to
Trophy Smack.
Up there. They got everything you want for any kind of thing you're doing. Crowning a fantasy league champion in any sport, or if it's just a regular sport, or if you got a top salesman, they've got stuff for that too. They got stuff.
I was going to say they had like car salesmen's and executive stuff, office sales and whatnot. They even customized belts for that.
They don't miss a beat with anything, man. If it involves a winner and a loser, they've got you covered. So go check them out. We thank them once again for supporting us and being so nice to donate to our league winners. Again, I'll get your addresses and get your care packages out to you pretty soon. We'll be back. For now, we're going to do Friday nights. I think that works best for me and Sean for right now. We're going to do Friday nights. Maybe when the season gets here, we might change it around or whatever. But Friday nights at 8 o'clock, we're going to do that. So spread the word. Send us your questions. We love answering questions, trades, drafts, whatever's going on, whatever you got on your mind. Jump online with us, jump on the live and drink a beer with us and have a good time. And we'll try our best to set you straight for the fantasy season.
Jump on Discord with us.
Oh yeah, Discord. Yes, that's in the bio too. Go check out Discord. It's everything from college to or from high school to the pros, and there's other categories: wrestling and music and card collecting. Good time over there. So check us out. You can follow him at Sean8386.
Got it, man.
Bam. Fuck you, Kyle. I still got it. And you can follow me at Hollywood Titan. Maybe we'll drag Kyle's dead ass on here one of these days with us, but his girls had a ball game, so he couldn't be here tonight.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck to them on that tournament.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck to them.
We know you're listening, Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle. With that, we're out. We'll see you next week. Later.